And what this particular part of the stage is that it's an emotional preparation for your child leaving. It's a passport to adulthood. And one of the things that I realized was I completely skipped this stage. I wasn't even aware that I was even in it. And so I was so caught up in trying to take care of all of my children's need that I didn't realize that that particular stage was preparing me for them to leave. And so just a tidbit of that, if you fall into any of those categories right now, I know that there are a lot of people that are actually participating today. You may fall in the pre-empty nest stage, but I want you to know that that is the sort of the pre to empty nest. Now I want to talk a little bit about empty nest itself. Many of you in this room have probably been in empty nest for probably 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, okay? And so you probably passed that stage of feelings, okay? But there are some people who maybe this is their first time. I just want to share briefly with you, for myself, some of the struggles that I had was very traumatic. I was later pretty much realized that I had been going through some depression and wasn't even aware of it. I was having an identity crisis. My children had left. They both were in different states. I live here in Texas, and I was feeling a lot of, well, who am I now that they're gone? Crying a lot. I remember one time I almost got into a car accident because I was crying so much driving to work that I couldn't see. Just realizing that so much of me trying to build their self-esteem, help them emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, doing all of those different things for them, that I didn't know who I was. So as I was actually wrestling with the empty nest stage, actually I was in it for a couple of years. I felt like one of those people, you know what they have this, what they say, you have this sort of out of body experience. Like I was doing all of the things that I would normally do, go to church, be with my friends, praise God, be at work. But I felt like I was like almost like a shell sort of walking and doing all of those things. I didn't know who I was, where I wanted to go. And so thus began my journey. What I wanted to talk to you guys about today is mainly what happens when you're coming out of the empty nest and then your self-discovery. So we're going to focus a lot on finding your purpose as an empty nest. I would describe post-empty nest as taking a nap, waking up from a nap and feeling like, oh boy, looking around the room, what do I do now? Where do I go? I know I sort of gotten over that kind of the morning part of it, but I was at a loss for where I needed to go. And so one of the things that I did was I decided that I was going to do what most people do when they don't know what to do. And that is to educate myself. Part of educating myself was realizing that I needed to be able to talk to people about what was going on with me. I didn't really hear a lot of people talking about empty nests. I'll be quite frankly, I didn't hear people talking about their struggles or what they were going through. And so I started to open up to some women about just what I was feeling. And one of the things that happened was I realized that a lot of people were feeling the way I was feeling. That's just sort of ironic that that happened. And so I started to pray. As I mentioned earlier, that there's a time for everything. And what that showed me is that God designed for me to be where I was at. So if you're in this stage right now, or you've passed the stage, I want you to know that this has actually been created by God. That was one of the things that I learned from some of my Bible study. Now, you're not going to find emptiness in the Bible, so don't go look in the Bible to see if you can find emptiness. That is not there. Okay, it's not there. But the whole concept of feelings, I love the fact that God himself was grieved that he had made man. So that tells me something about who he is, that he has feelings. And so I felt like, wow, I'm in good company. If God can grieve, then he created me to grieve, and I'm okay being here. So I allowed myself, and I think that would be the first point that I would say to you, is I gave myself permission to be where I was at. I'm gonna sit here for a while and let God do what he needs to do through me with all these crazy feelings I'm having. And so I came to the point where the next chapter of my life was probably the biggest part, was I needed to start asking myself some real hard questions. One of the questions that I asked myself was basically, you know, I know I'm a mother, I know I'm a wife, I know I'm a sister, I know I'm an employee, I know I'm all of these things, but is that it? You know, is that it? Is that all that's there for me? And I went through that for a long time. The second question that I asked myself was, okay, I know I'm a disciple of Christ. I know my sins have been forgiven and I have had this walk with God, but you know, there's gotta be some particular reason or particular plan that God wants to work through me in. And then the last question, which was quite honestly the hardest one, was, if that is so, what if I'm not doing that? If he's got a plan for my life and he has a particular purpose, what if I'm not living that out? And that was the one that really got me the most. I was really petrified from that. And so as I continued to pray every day, I prayed every day, God, you created me, you know, show me what you want for my life. Show me the plan that you have for me. And so as I was talking to these women, one of the ways that I realized how God was helping me or answering my prayers was that the women started saying these things, that they felt the same way. And so I'm like, okay, I'm on the right track. I'm on the right track. There's a lot of people who feel the way I feel. And then after that came this feeling of, you know what? You need to do something with those women. You need to do something with that group of women. So I met with, I scheduled a meeting at my house. Some of the people who are on this call was in that room, actually. I met with many of these women, and I'm telling you, there wasn't a dry eye in that room. I mean, there were some real hard, gut-wrenching tears, the kind that, you know, your soul sort of hurts when you hear. I think the biggest thing that I got from that meeting was that there were people who felt like they had missed their opportunities. And that was very, even when I talk about it, it's very emotional. They had missed their opportunities in their life. Their children were gone. They didn't know what their purpose in life was. And I also realized, and I heard that little whisper that said, you know what? This is it. This is what I want you to do. And so from that meeting, we came up with a group called the Women's Purpose Group. Now, we started in the group with several people. There were other people who were not able to continue to meet, but what we decided was that we wanted to have a network of women that were going to get together on a regular basis, and we were going to talk about our journey to finding our purpose. It wasn't a class, it wasn't anything like that. It was a network of women. We met regularly, and we basically said that if you're going to be in this group, you're going to have to be committed to it. If you're not going to put the time in to do your homework, you can't come. And for those of you who know me, you know, we kept to that. We went from 15 to about 6. But the bottom line was, it was an encouraging time. From that meeting, I think, and from that group, I learned a lot about the fact that God had sort of fashioned me for something along that road. I wasn't quite sure what it was, but I knew that I had touched on something and that God was leading me. I think the thing from that group as well that I learned is that as you're on the journey of finding your purpose, you need to have a network of women who are like-minded. That was really hard for me because often I try to give to a lot of people. And I realized during that time that I have to focus on me, which was very hard. I've not really been raised that way. I've been raised always to sort of be a caregiver or caretaker. So for me to step back and say, you know what, it's my time, was hard. I found myself being conflicted with, well, am I just being selfish if I just focus on me, you know? And I finally had to realize that, yeah, that this is the time that God has created for me. So one of the things that I started doing was, as I mentioned earlier, I started educating myself. I started reading a lot of books on the stage of life that I was in. I started talking to some of the women at my job who were further along in me. I would schedule appointments to meet with them and interview them. I wanted to find out what they were thinking, what they were feeling, the mistakes they made. You know, I wanted to learn. So I started reading a lot of books. I got a journal. In that journal, I started writing out things that I wouldn't say out aloud. I started to write out, you know, just some of my fears and that I wanted more from my life. It was my time and I wanted to go for that. And so some of the things that really helped me was just really looking at some other things that could help me identify some of my strengths. So I started taking a couple of assessments. I took the modified heights assessment. It's a very good assessment. Several of you may have already done that if you know me. It really sort of identified what your strengths are, even some of your spiritual gifts. And it also allows you to ask 3 people that knows you really well for them to assess you. I love that because it really was able to help me see that the way people viewed me, it was the same assessment. They all said the same strength for me. So it allowed me to be able to say, wow, this is not just me thinking that I'm all that. You know, it was basically these people see this in me as well. The other assessment I did is a very popular one. It's called Strength Finders. You can go to strengthfinders.com, and it was able to actually thoroughly look at many aspects of who I was. And it was saying that basically my strength is communicating with people and identifying and relating to them. So those sort of helped me. It helped me to see that I was on the right path. Some of the other things that I did was I started to look at my personal life, like with my relationship with my husband, like what are some of the things that I want to do with my husband? So if you look in my background, you'll see 2 hot air balloons. My husband and I got an opportunity to go on to a conference several years ago in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and we went on a hot air balloon. That's me and Don in the background. To be honest, when I did that, I felt like that gave me motivation to start doing things that were not comfortable for me. And I will say that if you are actually going to go on this journey, you're gonna have to be willing to go to some places that are not comfortable for you. The second part of it that I wanted to talk about was just quickly, what is your passion? What are you passionate about? The first couple of things that helped me, and I'm not going to go through all of them. I have a list of questions that I have. If you want a copy of them, I can make sure you get those. The first one was to explore things you love to do and the things that comes easy. That one really helped me because I started to, in my journal, to be able to sit down and write out what are the things I'm passionate about. I'm just going to be honest, that didn't take a day. That was weeks and months because there were times I couldn't come up with a lot of things. And so I had to, again, get back to that place of, okay, give yourself permission to just sit and let it come to you. And so I just started writing. I started writing out the things that I was passionate about. I love to talk, if you know me. I'm very animated when I talk. Somebody has named me the Black Italian woman because I talk with my hands. I love to talk. I love to hear what people are doing, and I like to learn from people. So to be able to explore the things that you love, the second thing that I did was I created a life purpose statement. Like what is my life purpose? Actually work on a statement. And I had actually about a paragraph, like what is it? What is my statement? I also was able to decide, where I wanted to go. It's setting goals. And when you're doing some of these things, you're going to feel foolish doing them. I also had to come to the conclusion that I needed to be willing to lean into my purpose. Just with the fact of that this isn't going to come overnight. I need to not be focused on trying to rush this. I also wanted to share with you that I work for United Way of Tarrant County. I am a care transitions manager, and a lot of my job allows me to be able to work with underserved and unserved population in Tarrant County. So my job sort of fits into a lot of where I feel like a lot of my purpose comes. And so with that, I have sort of landed on the fact that my purpose is basically working with people, whether in the church or outside of the church, working with unmet needs. It's who I am. And this journey has allowed me to be able to do that.
I think 5 minutes.
Okay. And I think the thing I wanted to say, a couple of questions that I want to give you to think about in this is whether you're in a pandemic or not, is who am I? I think we don't spend a lot of time looking at like, who are you really? What are you passionate about? Again, you're going to need to really take some time to really sit down and really think about what gets you going, what gets you excited. What are your values? What are your values? Where do you want to be in 10 years or 20 years? What gifts have God given you that you've perfected over time? What gifts have God given you that you haven't been able to use? And the last one is, what do you have to learn to change in order to make yourself capable of living up to the demands that you have or you want for yourself? I also had to come to the conclusion that when people feel like they have no sense of direction, no purpose in their lives, it's because they don't know what's important and they don't know what their value is. And so again, these were some things I had to be willing to, at this stage in your life. I'm 60 years old right now. And this has been a couple of years journey for me to even get where I'm at, where I'm sharing this with you. I had to really see that, what do I value? What do I want? I am a disciple of Christ, but outside of that, who am I? What do I want? I'm here for a purpose. How does God want to work through me? And so whether you are in early empty nest, whether you've been an empty nester for 5, 6, 7, 10, 20, 30 years, the thing is God has created us for a purpose. We have a purpose for why we're here. And it's very important for you to be able to identify what that is. What does that look like? It's what it looks like for me is not going to look the same for you. And so I think I can't say it enough. I think the thing is you're going to have to be willing to take the time, carve out time through your week, even like a Saturday morning for 4 hours, and just spend it on journaling. Where do you see yourself? Talk to other people. And that was the thing that helped me, was really being able to have other people say, this is what I see your strengths are. This is what you're good in. And I also felt like it was very important for me to take some assessments, some of those assessment tests to sort of streamline some of the areas. But lastly, I feel, like I said earlier, that I feel like God has sort of fashioned me to be able to work with women, but I really feel like my biggest strength is being able to go after some unidentified needs. And so with that, I know my time has gone by really quick. I'm amazed by that, but I want to thank you again for joining us. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
Great, thanks so much, Sheila.